Boom. Supposedly it's live. I mean, YouTube has just realized it might be live. Let me turn off this and then check if we have audio on the stream. We do have audio on the stream. Excellent. That is what a man wants to see whenever anything happens ever. I just love it when there's audio on my stream. You know, it's very, very important. Oh, I can't even buy anything. That's why I didn't buy anything last time. One gooding? Gooding! Gooding indeed. Well, that was two goodings. That was now free. So I can't do anything right, apparently. Absolutely, absolutely destroyed. I wanted to set the game to borderless windowed so I can like mess around in OBS without having the game pause. But apparently you can have window... Wait, I forgot which button it is to sprint. Excellent, good gameplay, yeah. No, but like really. It's not shift. Isn't it? How is it not shift? Oh, you hold space. You hold jump to swim faster. There's no sprint button in the game. It's a good start. It's starting off strong, most definitely. I think you might be able to tell that I haven't played the game in 70 bazillion years. I remember absolutely nothing about how to play video games. So, unsubscribe? No! My subscription! Dios mío! So, since I've been finally freed from side projectville, I have realized that doing a effectively second work after the first work actually takes a toll on you a little bit. Maybe even significantly, and maybe I don't really want to repeat it if I don't have to. I just don't want to repeat it a little bit. I'm going to be gonna be frank about that. It's wait, oh there's the button. I remembered I had a button to disable the HUD, so it looks nicer. It's interesting because it didn't really feel that important or impactful in the moment, as in I was just generally tired and it was hard to think properly for a while, but it didn't feel like it specifically affected my ability to like work in particular. I was still able to figure stuff out pretty well. But what it did apparently affect was everything else. Which I kinda dropped basically everything else I was doing because I just didn't have the energy for it. And then now that I have the energy for it again, it's like it's nice to feel it coming back. That I can do things again and actually have the energy and be able to like think. It's like with starvation, right? If you start starving, then all of a sudden food tastes really good. Or like if you don't listen to music for like a week, and then you come back and then you remember how good your headphones actually are, like how nice it sounds to listen to music. It's kind of like that, but for just generally doing things. It's indeed very cool. Quite happy about it. So, things. I've basically taken, because I finished, I think on Thursday maybe? Might have been Thursday, I'm honestly not fully certain. Oh, don't drown. Whoops. Not good. Good headphones I got sent, indeed. On the way back, oh, it must be horrifying. Do you have like a spare pair at least? Like a second one so you can at least listen to music at all? Or is it just phone speaker and you just imagine that the thing sounds good? Yeah, so I've basically been just coming back to being able to think again over the past couple days. It's been pretty nice. But on that topic, since I've been able to think again, then of course, wait, I can't beat this guy yet. But I can unlock the map stone. I have been able to 4 spare pairs, all cheap or half broken. Well, if you think about it, oh no, he's gonna kill me. If you have like half broken headphones, then surely you just take one half of a broken headphone and the second half of the second broken headphone, and you once again have a functioning headphone. I think that checks out. I've done the math. Half plus half equals 1. I don't see a problem. I think this is a flawless idea. So yeah, since I've regained energy, I've also immediately regained the endless stream of thought that seems to be coursing from my brain at all times, forever. Except apparently for the time where it's not, where I'm doing something else. And so I have the same thoughts again, but in a slightly different flavor. How about that? I've started reading the Book of Wisdom recently. And something that struck me in a way about it is that it presents wisdom, at least from like the chapter I read today. It's like wisdom is presented as something you seek yourself, and it comes to you kind of separately. And like, I understand, this is written in the Book of Wisdom, so it's not to discount the importance of learning from other people and other sources, but the point is, if you seek wisdom, it comes to you directly, in a way. Like, you welcome it, you invite it to your house, you seek it, and then it comes. And so, what that made me think about is kind of my own, I don't know, it sounds goofy to say wisening up, but I certainly have objectively become wiser about life in general over time, as I think it's normal to do so. And that is something I've noticed that is an important part of the process, where I started out very I gotta say, because that's a direct translation from Polish. It's probably Ecclesiastes. Is it? No, Ecclesiastes is different, because this is everything's meaningless. Is it not literally called the Book of Wisdom? Wisdom of Solomon. Is it that? The Book of Wisdom. Is it? No. Wait a second. Is it like a Catholic only something? Are we... It might be. Maybe it's Catholic exclusive. It's yeah, it might be Catholic only, and I might have made a whoopsie. So you might not have a reference to what I'm what I'm referring to exactly, but what it says about wisdom is effectively the Catholic DLC, exactly. It's a good way to think about it. I didn't realize I just had it pre-bought. I bought the deluxe edition. It just came in the box, I didn't realize. So yeah, a big part of kind of learning to be an adult, I would call it, for me, was realizing that in a lot of ways, a lot of people know far less than they actually let on. Not that the idea is that I have to call everybody stupid to call myself smart, but the idea is that we actually know a lot less than you would imagine if you listen to a 15-year-old atheist's worldview on things, where it's like the science we already understand the world because we have the science TM, and then, you know, the science explains things, and there's experts, and there's, you know, older people than you that know a lot of stuff, and we just know. And this, like, talk show host on the TV is very convincing, and he's very funny, and he calls the other people stupid, and that makes me feel superior, etc., etc. That kind of business. But it turns out that a lot of the things to understand in life, and of course this is to be taken with a grain of salt, taking into consideration that I am not that far into my life yet, so probably plenty to learn still, but a lot of the big stuff and a lot of the stuff I notice that a lot of people don't, like, when I try to talk to them about it, they don't even have the language really, or like are not, like, it's like they are hearing the idea for the first time. A lot of that stuff is more about understanding and dealing with complexity and systems, as in how things connect together and influence one another, more than it is about any kind of encyclopedic knowledge or just generally knowledge, right? It's like, there's an element of knowledge to it because you learn about it, and there's a lot that is written about many topics, and especially on complexity, and any kind of complex system that's been around for a long time is going to have some kind of book written about it. But you don't necessarily get wiser from reading those kinds of books, because the understanding of the system and just then in general of systems or how things actually work is, a lot of it is about the abstract thinking, effectively, and it's something that is like, if people ask why they should learn math, because of course you have the classic question of like, why should I learn math? It's like, all I need is subtraction and division, because if I'm gonna be a cashier, then I need to be able to hand out the change, and basically, but there's gonna be a cash register, and it's gonna calculate it for me. So I basically just don't need math. Math unnecessary. It's like, well, if that's what you consider math to be, then I guess that wouldn't be that important to learn. But what is the actual important part of math is the abstract thinking. That is, and it's less in the knowledge and in the particular concepts you actually study. It's more in the, it's kind of in a meta sense, the fact that you actually study it and you think about these things and you notice patterns and you connect them together and figure things out, and then also learn how to apply the abstract tools you have learned to like combine them together and use them for new concepts to work maybe outside of what the textbooks teaches you by itself. It's like one. So not, like, of course you can't really, like, you don't want to be inventing maths from scratch every time you learn it, because that is a tremendous waste of time, but you don't, the most important part in terms of actually, like, if you're not necessarily interested in maths itself as the academic subject, the most important thing you are getting out of maths is the ability to problem solve, and the ability to handle abstraction, which is something that, well, the sheer idea that you could be learning abstraction through doing something is in itself abstract. So people who don't really grasp abstraction, which notable highlight, notable important point, children. not very good at abstract thinking. I guess maybe if they are like Chinese, but you don't really get a natural inclination to think about things in abstract ways, and it's very obvious when you talk with like young children. They can often get frustrated when you say it's like, but what about this example, or like what about this case, or but it's like obviously it's this because I can physically and materially see it being that. It's like, well, but we are not talking about this one particular case, we are talking about the pattern. And the pattern is an abstract thing that emerges from the one particular thing. And it's important for you to learn to be able to notice not just the one thing, and then the one thing, and then the one thing, and then the one thing. It's important for you to notice that there are 4 things and they form a line, because then you can predict that maybe the 5th thing is going to be on that line or somewhere nearby, and then you can use that in reality to make better decisions. And explaining that is like, if you don't have the ability to think in abstraction, you can't have this conversation really. You need to first learn it. So it's like you have to learn abstraction on faith, kind of. You just, and so like that with a lot of education. It's like it's very hard to explain to children why they should learn, because they need to learn and develop the brain to the point where they can actually be, like, they can actually have the reason explained to them. Because that's not just something you by default obtain and you can just understand it, snap like that from nothing. You don't want to invent math from scratch. I mean, it's true. It's funny because, when you put it like that, it sounds silly and goofy and stupid, but there's people who see that as something beautiful, and I'm not even really exaggerating. It's like, oh, there's because you follow the child, right? Like, you follow the child, and the child goes on a beautiful journey, and you go on the beautiful journey with the child. And then the child, basically after 20 years of hard labor, invents the wheel again, and then you are very proud of your child for inventing the wheel again, because it's a beautiful wheel and it's awesome, and my child invented the wheel again. And then, like, everybody who's driving cars and doing things that cars allow you to do are, like, asking the question of, couldn't we teach him about the wheel, and then he can do, like, basically anything that a wheel allows you to do without having to spend 20 years inventing the wheel, which is effectively just a waste of time. But that's not very beautiful, right? Then, because you have to grapple with some very uncomfortable topics, such as maybe there's someone smarter than you that knows a thing or maybe 2 things, perhaps. And then maybe listening to someone else other than yourself and, existing in society in any way, shape or form makes any degree of sense. That is a lot further than we can go if we really think about it. Because if you really think about it, we are all just atomized individuals, and so nothing you can say is in any way important or meaningful to anyone else. And you should basically shut up and die. It's a pretty beautiful message to be telling people, I think. It seems to have absolutely wonderful effects on society in general so far. I think we should continue in this direction. A little salty about that, admittedly, gotta say. Can you tell? Reminds me of that meme of the guy that's like, we should improve society somewhat. And then it's like, you think you hate society and yet you participate in society. How curious. I am very intelligent. not a clue. I am not sure if maybe I wasn't clear. Maybe I was... okay, no, I get it. I understand what... I'm stupid sometimes. It just happens. There's nothing to do about it. Very slow. Some days the brain's just not up to speed. Although, to be fair, it's way more up to speed than it was like a week ago. That was very much not up to speed brain. I didn't have a clue that you were upset about the thing. Yeah, I made very sure that my opinion on the idea is just not in any way legible. Obfuscation, we call it. Very important skill. Like when you're talking, when you're speaking to people, you want to make sure that nobody can understand what you mean, in order not to offend anyone. Because if you put meaning into what you say, then somebody might disagree with the meaning. And it is bad to disagree with the meaning, because that causes conflict. And as we all know, the best and biggest value in the entire world is conflict avoidance. And so you should, in fact, never have opinions. This is what some people would want you to actually unironically believe. Not because they don't have opinions, mind you, because when you don't have opinions, they get to have opinions that are not opposed by any other opinions. Because while you play by the rules of not having any opinions and being sanitized, etc., they do whatever the hell they want, and they get away with it. Because nobody calls them out on it. Of course, this is an entirely hypothetical discussion based on nothing, because this would never happen. Because we have progressed past the need for any kind of idea that there might be people who don't like you and want something bad to happen to you. That is also not real. Have you considered that if I avoid conflict, it might never find me? Like covering your eyes and the monsters go away. Maybe, just maybe, some people have never progressed past the object permanence toddler stage, you know, where it's like, oh, if you can't see me, if I can't see you, that means you can't see me. It's very simple. Like, it's not physically possible for you to see me. Because I don't see you. I hid my face in my hands. It's gone. I'll never see him again. No, it's when you've already kind of left with the idea, or in a way like thought it through and realized that is what you are actually doing, then conflict avoidance sounds very silly. But when you are stuck, not really stuck, but when you are well inside of it, and like your base unconscious assumption is that conflict avoidance is good by default, and you should be conflict avoidant, then this all sounds like it makes a hell of a lot of sense. I am ashamed to admit, I've been there. I am speaking from experience on this one. I've been in the conflict avoidance club. It's not very good. It's not awesome. It's not a banger. People can know that conflict is helpful and still avoid it. I mean, yes. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's obviously true. Which actually makes you, like, that is probably the point at which you should really stop and think. I mean, it's not that the idea is like conflict seeking, as in I'm going everywhere all over the place in every possible moment in order to just cause fights and just get into slap fights with people all the time, because then you are just on Twitter, like, if you're doing that. And I have no Twitter account for a reason. But it's a classic example of a false dichotomy. It's like there's more options to choose. There's more options to choose than these two. You can in fact you can think that conflict is helpful and still be smart about choosing your battles and picking what you fight and what you leave be, because it's gonna be counterproductive. Seeking conflict isn't the goal, but you can still know that conflict in certain circumstances would be beneficial and still not do it. I mean, yes, that borders, depending on the circumstance, of course, but it certainly borders on cowardice, effectively. It's like, I think that, because I think for as long as you are under the delusion that, you know, conflict avoidance in itself is a good value to have, and like maybe a prime value even in some ways, then that's being ignorant, effectively, right? Being under some kind of delusion. But the more it crosses into you understand that conflict would be beneficial, you understand that there's problems, you see them, and then you still choose not to act, and then that is just cowardice. You are just not solving problems that need to be solved, and then that just makes everything worse for everyone. Cowardice. What generation are you in? I think the fabled Generation Z, something like that. I've heard. I think I'm zooming all over the place. So I think conflict avoidance, you know, I think I'm from the generation that is afraid to order a pizza on the phone, I think. So, you know, take that into consideration, that this is maybe a generational revelation. We are truly breaking new ground here in terms of absolute thought bangers on this channel. My point exactly. Yeah. I mean, what can I say? It's true. I've seen it happen. So I can understand also how it happens. Because, like it or not, but unfortunately, terrorism often works. As in, you know, if you show people that you will in fact beat them up and hurt them and perhaps even kill them for speaking and for saying things that upset certain people, then those people are going to be less likely to actually speak. And, you know, it's like, I think if you remember a world before the internet and before social media and before, like, it was all melded together into this one gigantic blob of, well, of everything, where what you do online can have a very direct impact on what your actual life is like, because people will go out of their way to... like, you're all of a sudden the gallery of things that can threaten your actual life is expanded from, you know, not just your local community, not just like your country, your language, but the entire world. And it's not just today, it's not just the world as it is now, but it's also the future. It's also everything in the future in the world is also a threat, because it can all come back and bite you. So if you grow up and that is the setup you kind of notice and see, then like it's not a mystery where this attitude comes from. And especially if you have if you don't have a very, I don't know, some people are more just by temperament, I think would be the correct word to use. Some people by temperament are more like predisposed to be able to initiate and then resolve conflicts. Well, initiate more than resolve. I think resolve is more of a character thing, the things you learn, but initiate is a lot of it is temperament. So then if you have people who are not particularly predisposed to making, to just getting in there and getting in a fight, then circumstances are not exactly helpful. Dealing with conflict is a learned behavior. Yeah, I think dealing with it much more than, because some people have just starting conflicts in the blood, seemingly, as in, although maybe it is learned. I don't know, because I think, actually no, I think you might be you might be just flat out correct, and I think I'm just wrong, because the people I see most that I would consider natural conflict starters are actually people who have arrived at starting conflicts because they notice that there's things of value to be to be gained and to be done, and then they start conflicts for those values. So I think I'm just wrong. It's not, I mean, temperament surely is something like that, but that's more about like getting enraged and then starting like a fight because you got pissed off. That would be a more natural entering conflict. But in terms of conflicts of values and actually, you know, getting stuff done, that is certainly a lot more learned than you just kind of have it for no reason. I don't know, it's like, because at the end of the day, it's not, the most important point isn't what circumstances you started with, or like how long it took you to realize, or how, like, that it was difficult, or like you didn't understand it, or you were just by default, you were avoidant. It's like once it's important what happens once you know it. Once you realize that, hold on, I just have the complete wrong picture of the world, then the question is what you do about it. And that is the important question. It's like, okay, you notice that, you know, getting into conflict is not fun, it's not pleasant, but you also should be able to notice at the same time that not getting into conflict just leads to nothing changing, and nothing changing leads to constant decline towards, well, decline towards the worst, because what else the decline would be towards? That is, and that kind of goes back to the wisdom conversation, because this is also something you. This is also something you, in a way, find within yourself. As in, like, no matter who tells you about the question in the first place, or where you learn about it, and how you notice the question of conflict avoidance, at the end of the day, what is important is what you do about it. So, okay, you see that conflict avoidance is not a solution to problems. The question is, well, are you gonna start entering into conflicts? And it's not just about having the gumption to actually start the conflict, but it's also about, because wisdom, right? You don't just have to notice that, oh, it's important to get into conflicts, but the wisdom is also in which kinds of conflicts do you enter, what for, and what you do while you are in a conflict. That's all important. You could even say that's extremely important. Because, like, yeah, well, like, going back to the point about, it's like, if you just go into rages and start, you know, just fighting with people for whatever reason, well, then that's not wise, that's not good. You're not doing you're not doing any particular amount of good by just letting go and being angry and letting that anger out onto people. Like, that doesn't help. So it's not just about, oh, everybody should start entering into conflicts. Like, no. Like, first things first, understand what the hell you're doing. Don't just... Because I think that's what happens, and that's something that is nice for us to learn from, like, for example, the internet. Because if you look at a lot of online figures that are now respectable, like, a lot of them have a lot of really goofy shit that they've done because they've because they are the people who are at the kind of forefront of certain things and certain ideas, because these were the people that were bold enough to actually start conflicts and just speak their mind when they see there's a problem. And so the unfortunate side effect of that is that if you start speaking out before you know what you're doing and what you're talking about, then you will learn on the job. And while, you know, while that is certainly a good way to learn and gain knowledge, well, at the same time, you are gonna... all the things you have learned and how you have learned them is going to be permanently recorded, like, in history on the internet and attached to your name. And not just to your name, but also, like, the popularity you have. It's just something that's going to be with you. Every stupid thing you've done ever. And something nice about not being an e-celeb or not being quite at the forefront of all of that is that we get to learn from it, and everybody else gets to enjoy knowing what to do and what not to do by observing the people who have done things and how that turned out, and which ideas were stupid and which ideas were pretty good. It's like, point being, it's nice to not be the first guy. It's nice to not be the trailblazer in a lot of ways. But then, like, you are gonna still experience maybe not all the same stuff, because you are gonna be able to... you will not make the exact same mistakes, but you will still end up making your own mistakes along the way and learning from those, and there's gonna be plenty of them. So it's not like you get to avoid any of that. You don't get to skip out on learning from your mistakes, but you can... Oh, I've died there before, I remember. I've walked into that spike and got stunlocked before. It's happened. There we go. So it's like, yeah, you get to act with a lot of wisdom that coming back around to wisdom again. Like, you get to act with a lot of wisdom that you didn't have to earn by trial and error. Like, there's you know, you already have access to a bunch of math that you just don't have to invent yourself again. You don't have to learn, like, you don't have to test certain ideas out from scratch by yourself, because you have people who have already tried them, and you can already skip the part where you do something stupid and then you realize that it was stupid from the backlash you receive. It's nice. It's nice to live in a world where we are in the information age, and you can just have a lot of information about a lot of things. It's a very powerful tool, the internet, and just, like, information in general, but internet specifically. The internet, I should say, specifically. It's nice to have it, but then, as with wisdom, right? You can get a lot of information from a lot of different places, but the question is how you integrate it into your overall thinking and actions at the end of the day. So it's like, yes, it does matter that you have access to all this information and that you can do so much with it, but in a way, it only matters when you actually put it into practice, when you actually understand it, and when you actually start doing things based on that knowledge and collected experience, because otherwise you're just a smartass, right? Like, that's, I think, the term for someone who's just like, who's smart for the sake of being smart, right? The kind of trivia knowledge, or it's like, yeah, I will harshly criticize everything you do, and I will tell you why it's not gonna work, and I will have all that stuff to say about it, but at the end of the day, you know, I'm not going to actually do anything, right? I'm not going to think about my own organization. I'm not going to kind of challenge something going on. I'm not going to do any of that, but I will continuously stand on the sidelines of your thing and just tell you how bad you are doing it. And it's a fine line to walk as well, because criticism is extremely important. Like, well, obviously, duh, but it's very easy, and that's, once again, that's conflict avoidance again. It's very easy to just sit by and, well, very easy to sit by and say that criticizing, effectively. Right? It's like, oh, you're just so negative all the time, and you're just, like, if you don't have anything positive to say nothing. It's like, no, that's conflict avoidance. That is conflict avoidance, and that is very, very directly and obviously how things do not get better because you pretend like there's no problems. Problems don't get solved by pretending they don't exist. And asking people to never be negative is pretending problems don't exist, because there's problems all over the place all the time. And while, you know, you don't want to be a downer about it and just say that, oh, everything's over, the West has fallen, billions must die, etc. Say, no. But once again, you know, false dichotomy, there's more options. You don't have to be the most doomer guy who just thinks everything's over and everybody exploded and nothing can be fixed. And then the other part is like hyper optimism, only focus on the positives, only like never speak of anything negative, never criticize, etc. It's like we can find a middle ground, I think, between these two that is a reasonable amount of criticism in order to have things be less shit, and then also contain it so it's not just I hate everything sucks, billions must die, right? Like, I don't know, I am coming across probably very like a disgusting centrist who just can't pick a side, but, well, big apologies. I just am like this, I'm afraid. New headphones came in? Well, congratulations. Speak of the devil, and in this case, speak of the headphones, and it shall appear, apparently. You just manifested the headphones. As with the Rumble ads you can get sometimes, where it's like, if you can't manifest abundance, and then I don't know what goes after, because I always skip them. Well, I always skip them, and then I update my ad blocker, and then I never remember that ads actually exist. Like, from time to time, because I have AdBlock installed on everything I can, I just do not listen to any ads whatsoever on any platform at all. And so sometimes I see somebody's screen share, for example, or I am at someone's place and I see them use the computer and they don't have an ad blocker, and it's like, how do you live? How do you live like this? How is it possible to exist in a world where there's advertisements? I do not understand it. I genuinely cannot stand ads in any way, shape, or form. Just please do not make me consume advertisements. I hate ads. I hate ads with such a large passion. And that has downsides because, you know, when you do things and you want people to know about the things you do, then the advertisement is effectively telling people that you do something that they might be interested in. But like marketing, I hate marketing. Even if it's marketing for things I like and I'm interested in, I like. I think if the signal to noise ratio was different, I think I might maybe would be having a different view on it. Because the current ratio of actual things I'm interested in to things I do not care about and that just waste my time is the absolute vast majority of everything I see advertised in any way, shape, or form is just random garbage that I know I'm not interested in and has no value to me. Which, of course, makes me think that there's no such thing as a good advertisement or like useful product that is advertised, which is not true. Like, people sometimes advertise things that are actually useful. Sometimes. It theoretically can happen in a parallel universe. Maybe. But in reality, no. Just, if I could never see an ad again, I would be happy. Let's go back to... I mean, of course, that's a pipe dream, because it's not gonna happen. Like, how are you gonna get rid of people promoting their own work and products? Like, how are you going to... That's also interesting, because with the way with the free market, or like relatively free market, it's like we certainly have way more of a free market than not free market still. But the way of, like, you find out the quality of things by just, and it's very visible, especially in the age of information. It's like you crowdsource learning the quality of things. How do you know the product is good? Well, we spam 10,000 million products onto the market, and then people, in general as a collective, find out if it's good or not, like, over time. Some people buy it, some people review it, it gets more or less popular, you know, all that kind of jazz. It gets, like, word of mouth spreads. And then, in general, you approximate how valuable it is to people, somehow. And then a lot of systems are like, but I can obviously determine what is good for people a priori, because I am very smart and intelligent. And it turns out that generally, those people, despite being super, mega, very smart and intelligent, do not, in fact, comprehend literally everything ever, which I know, shocking to some people that this could ever be the case, but some people that claim to know everything ever might in fact be lying or just stupid. I realize this might come across as controversial, but that's exactly what I intended to be, so unfortunate, my apologies, etc. Because that's another thing related to wisdom. It's like something that is differentiates like wisdom and knowledge and being a smartass is, I think, the goal. Because if you try to accumulate wisdom for the reason of being wise, or like for its own sake in a way, it doesn't quite make sense, because wisdom is wisdom helps you accomplish goals, and a lot of that, the things you will learn and find out and understand are in relation to goals. It's like, what do you want to do? You have to answer the fundamental question of what do you want to do, and then, like, oh, is this beneficial? Is this the wise thing to do? Is in relation to the goal, because the question is, does this further the goal? Like, now and for the time that and also for the future, right? Is this action beneficial from the point of view of the goal? You can't divorce it. It's like, oh, is this a good thing? It's something that I think people a lot of the time, like, it's the most. Some people really like these kinds of discussions. I personally am really annoyed by them, because, like, what makes good art is, I think, just a patently retarded question to ask. Because it's, of course, it's an endless conversation generator, but you know why it is an endless conversation generator? It's because there's no answer. And because there's no answer, you can seek the answer for an infinite amount of time, but, like, it's not like you're getting to a conclusion, because the scope of the problem you're talking about is absurd. Like, it's an absurdly large scope, to the point where it's impossible to actually, to answer in any satisfying way, because, like, what's the answer to the life, universe, and everything ever, right? Something like that. Well, it's 42, right? That's the funny. But the point of that is that, how do you even formulate such an answer? Like, how do you encompass infinity in something finite? It's obviously impossible. So then, like, what? Like, for me, I don't even get the appeal of the discussion, because for me, this is basically it. I just say that, and that's it in terms of the, like, I can discuss maybe, like, certain criteria or standards, but it's always going to remain in the question of, what's the goal? What do you want to accomplish? What is the good that comes out of this, right? What is the purpose? And then you just, that's what gives you the framework through which you can actually judge things. Like, you can judge things in relation to that goal. And then if you don't have a goal, then, like, what the hell does anything ever mean? Is there anything actually worth watching on Rumble besides Tommy? I guess, I don't know if there's anything that's not on other platforms, because I watch, like, one channel on there, just about, and I watch it because it's not on YouTube, but it's also on other streaming platforms, like on Kick, for example. Like, theoretically, like, I guess if you watch things spicy enough to be banned from literally everywhere, from everywhere else, like, civilized. And by everywhere else civilized, I mean, well, YouTube. Then it might be on Rumble, but then usually what happens is that people have archives anyway, so you can watch the same content on YouTube on the archive channel, and the archive channels get, like, taken down from time to time, but then because you can just make another archive channel, it doesn't really matter. So it's like, I guess YouTube forever. Just keeps happening. But if you wanted to watch an advertisement about manifesting abundance, you might want to do that. That might be a good place to go. What do I watch on Rumble? I don't want to say on YouTube, that's the thing. I don't know. The walls have ears. Wait, I'm gonna die? No. I'll tell you in DMs, it's fine. It's gonna be a secret. Oh, can we jump? Thank you. Okay, how did I arrive? Because I arrived at overly abstract discussions somehow, and I don't remember where I got that from. Because I got to the question of, like, talking about the definition of art, or, like, what is good, etc. Oh, it was from the purpose, right? It's like, if you, the prime question to ask in basically any case ever is, what is the goal? What's the point? What for? It's a question that I am usually surprised by how little the question is actually asked. Because I think a lot of the time people just try not to think about it. Because it's a somewhat difficult question to answer if you want to give yourself an existential crisis and you've never answered the question of what for. Well, it's a very good place to start. You can in fact enter an existential crisis right now, this moment. Let's hit yourself with the question of what am I doing this for, and then keep going down the rabbit hole until you arrive at effectively the question of faith, because that is what it comes down to. The fundamental base for is a question of faith. It's like you choose that. It's in a way arbitrary what you choose there. I mean, I don't believe it is arbitrary, but it is in a way arbitrary. Well, arbitrary because it's faith, and faith is something you choose. I don't know. Maybe arbitrary isn't the correct word, but maybe it is the correct word, because it's the honest answer to what faith is has to have that kind of realization in it, where if you truly believe it to be faith, if you really consider it faith, then it's not certainty, then it's not something you've received from somewhere and you are like 100% sure, no doubts ever, no questions, nothing. I know. Like that's different from faith. Because faith is something you choose, and there's always it's not certainty. I think it can't be certainty. Because it's beyond. I find it hard to word it. Maybe it'll come to me. Okay, well, pardon. There's no such thing as complete certainty. Yep. I feel like I've been in this area before. I wonder when that might have been. Yeah, there's no such thing as complete certainty, and like if you want to have an honest discussion about it, then it has to include this factor. That there's a degree of arbitrariness to it, and the degree, because it also keeps you honest when you realize that wisdom isn't about knowing everything or like having answers to every question. And when you take that into consideration, you approach like answers differently, and it's not that you have to, to have 10 million qualifiers of like, it's just my opinion, I'm not sure, it might be different, etc, etc. It's not about that, because that's more about just lack of that's just a more lack of confidence than like acknowledging much. But it's like you realize, how do I put it? It's like you approach the questions somewhat differently. With a degree of, okay, I am going to state this thing. Like, I understand that I can be wrong. I understand that there's uncertainty to what I'm saying. I understand that it's not like I don't have all the answers and I don't have literally everything fully 100% figured out, but I'm going to honestly stand here and say what I believe about it, why I believe it, what convinces me, what do I think, why I think that way, etc. And I'm going to do my best to represent my own positions so that when you come across another person who has different positions and is also willing to do the same thing, then the dialogue can work. As in, like, of course you can play devil's advocate for positions you don't really hold, and you should do that in order to develop your thinking better, but in the long term, you need people who truly and sincerely believe things different than what you believe. If you want to... If you want to arrive at a more complete picture of the truth TM, then you wanna have multiple perspectives. You can't really provide all the perspectives yourself by playing devil's advocate, and you can't limit yourself from exploring, for example, certain subjects or certain ideas. Like, you don't play both sides, you play your side, and then you find other people who are willing and able to play the other side in order to... It's basic cooperation. I feel like, in a way, I feel kind of stupid even talking about it or explaining it, but looking at just how broken everything seems to be and how underdefined everything is. Because bloody hell, try and find people that actually define the terms they are using, and it's not at all easy to do. I think within the context, it's important to establish in a word even those basic things and ideas, because you are then able to actually better answer people who question your base assumptions effectively, because there might be a lot of things you kind of take on faith. Take on faith. It's different. There's a difference from... It's sometimes expressed as I want to make my arguments for... without reference to God, in a way. So where I can, I argue my case, like, based on first principles and logic from there, which, well, first principles is something that you get from faith, but overall the argument is something you can make without the reference. So it's like there's a difference between being ignorant and then things you take on faith. And there's a lot of things you don't have to take on faith, because, you know, being ignorant is not the same. It's like, if you don't know something, that's different from taking it. Like, how does it relate to the thing I was saying about having different perspectives? Oh yeah, because I was talking about articulating different things. Wait, shouldn't this be unlocked? I feel like I missed a switch somewhere. Yeah, it's like taking it on... Yeah, it's basic, like, you can't do everything yourself, and that doesn't just apply to physical things and to certain actions you take in the real world, it also applies to intellectual things. It's like, I can't necessarily do all the work and figure everything out, and then become the smartest guy who understands everything without any help from anyone else. It's like, no, there's... A lot of people do a lot of different work and help you skip part of the queue in a way where, like, you don't have to invent maths from scratch, because there's people who have already invented it, documented it, and they let you participate from there. I think I should have jumped off the guy into there to get up. They let you kind of skip part of the queue and get up to places where you would have normally just not been able to get without that. I think I need to do the entire area again to respawn him. Whoops. So I want other people to to assist you and to study themselves, and then give you the quick rundown and point you maybe in directions to learn more and understand more. Standing on the shoulders of those who came before, yeah, that, and also like helping other people around you up and accepting help from the people that are around you. It's not here, apparently. You probably unlock this place by doing something entirely different. Like, you come here later, I think. It's like, you know, the whole idea of maybe perhaps having a society at one point or another. Maybe we should, like, not be atomized individuals all the time forever. Maybe we should have things in common. Uh-oh, I'm dead again. Dude, I think this mechanic where when you walk onto the point at which you died last time, it stops you dead in your tracks, and then there's an enemy that just kills you. That is mildly... They didn't think it through. I mean, granted, I didn't think through the idea that I'm going to die when I do that, and I, in fact, said I'm going to die, and I was thinking it, and I still did it. However, I would consider this not stellar game design, to be honest. Like, once again, as I've been saying, you should never be critical, so I'm very sorry, for this clearly unearned piece of horrible abuse. Can you believe that some people unironically believe that? It's unreal. Like, the whole individual shtick and do whatever you want, it sells very well to children. But I think if you, well, I guess it's a matter of a question once again of like, what's the purpose, what's the goal? But if you have further goals and you would like to actually do things in reality, then you very quickly realize that doing all of that by yourself and just through your own strength of one guy doing things is just unfeasible. Ranging from unfeasible to like genuinely, like, it's straight up impossible to do things of a certain scale as one guy just doing things. It's like you might be able to make a video game as one guy, but you know, but what that video game is going to be limited by you being just one guy. Like, to use a very terminally on the computer example. You need a team, not just because it's a lot of work to just make the game, but it's also a lot of work to develop all the skills you actually need to combine together to create something like this, because it's a multimedia project, right? You have art to be done, you have programming, you have design of various kinds, you have marketing, you have the business side of things, being able to pay for all of that, and then being able to sell it and release it and have people actually play it, then testing it, like feedback, all of that is all skills that people develop. And in order to make things of quality, you want to develop them to a pretty darn good level, which consumes a lot of time. And it turns out you only have 24 hours in a day, and that is not increasing. And so you're gonna be stuck with that. You can only do so much as one guy doing things. So then just, you know, having oh, I picked the wrong thing. Having a team is not just a straight upgrade, because then you introduce friction, because suddenly, you know, it's not all inside your own head, so you have to think about how your team members are going to communicate and how you are going to maintain information that multiple people develop together and need access to. And there's like a whole level of complexity that just happens over there, but if you manage it well and if you handle it well, then you get to something that is greater than any of you could have accomplished alone, right? And once again, you know, wow, the absolute basic idea of how things should function and how to do things. It's like, yeah, sure, like, it's basic, but once again, we're the general state of things I would classify as not splendid. I realize, like, very, very rude of me to think that, but things are in fact not splendid. We are not doing excellent, and everything isn't going super swimmingly. Whoa, you can fall through that. Did not realize. It's kind of a mistake. I lose those points now. Because I didn't... Wait, I can buy the magnet now. Oh, that's gone. It's like, yeah, that... It's like, why would you have a team? Well, like, some people naturally just form a team in a way that, oh, we just want to do this thing. But then it's very easy to not realize that being a team and doing team things is not just as simple as being multiple individuals doing things. It's like, it's the same question of, I talked about earlier with abstraction, and like, you have 4 points, and the question is, can you just see point, 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 or can you actually notice that there are 4 points forming a line? And it's the same with teams, and groups of people, and organizations more broadly. It's like, do you just notice that there's 5 people, and let's mark there's Zach and there's that guy, and they do things? Or do you notice that there's a team, and that team does something, and there's goals and plans, etc., and the team has its own kind of behavior that is specific to it being a team of a certain format doing certain things, and it's not just the 4 people, but it's also the relationships between those people and how they influence one another, and that becomes its own system, right? And you can talk about the system as a whole. That is kind of more than just its components. You talk about everything in total. And, you know, there's... And I think in a perhaps extremely atheistic way to understand spirituality, it's like, I think that is exactly where spiritual concepts kind of happen. Is that space which it's not just the components or just the physical or just the people that are there and their needs and whatever else they bring to the table. It's the space of goals, of values, of like question of what to do in what order and why. And all of that is not just the space of... Because for a long time, the way I thought about it was that, you know, you arrive at all of those things through logic, in a way, right? You think about things, and then you come to the conclusion of, this is the best thing to do, and we should do the best thing. We should do this best thing because it's the best, and then everything you do is you arrive at through that logic. And then the point is that you study that logic and you get better at it to the point where you can always determine the best thing, and that's where you start doing things and it all goes well. It's like, no, not really. Because in any kind of process like this, there's going to be 70 bazillion choices along the way that you make, and you will not be able to predict which answer to each problem is the best, and then B, to a lot of them, there's no outside logical best answer. A lot of the choices you make are the question of what do you want to do, and it's in, once again, to use the word arbitrary. So it's like, oh, we should just, the entire world should be ruled by logic and rules, etc. It's like, well, there's actually a lot of things that are just chosen. You just choose them, and then within a group, it's important also to have a guy that chooses and have the kind of backstop that even if you have a mechanism like voting, for example, what if there's a stalemate? What if we can't decide? What if there's a tie because like two people abstain and then one guy says yes, one guy says no? It's like, well, okay, if you want to function as a team and not crash and burn at the first circumstance like this, you are going to have a mechanism that is a backstop to those situations. So, for example, you have a team leader, and in the case of a stalemate, that guy has the final say, and he just has to choose. And then everybody else falls in line, because the alternative is you just fall apart instead, or just stalemate until, like, what? Until just somebody budges? The entire world should be ruled by logic. The French Revolution was bad. Yes, the baguettes, in fact, not very good. Sorry, guys. Like, I understand you really wanted to decapitate some people, and it was very funny, but it's actually not a good idea. It doesn't work. That's the main problem. Because that's hubris, right? Or like that's hubris, or in a way like a certain level of blindness where you think that your values are logical, and they are not. Like, oh, we've arrived at the values through just reason and logic, and we don't need religion anymore. It's like, buddy, what you've completely failed to notice is that the values you think so highly of, and that you've achieved through reason, and is just obviously what everyone should do, is just rebranded Christian values. It's like you've taken the Bible and you've decided you are very super mega smart because you've realized that, oh, this is what I feel is correct, effectively. And it's obvious that it's correct because of thing A, B, and C, and then you don't realize that the reason why why is thing A, B, and C correct is also a valid question to ask, and to that you have no answer because you just assume it is good. It's faith. It's because it's hidden by one layer of abstraction, you don't notice that it is faith in nature. Like, you don't, we should, everything's good because consenting adults should be able to do whatever they want. It's like, well, okay, that's a principle. Do you realize where that principle comes from and why it is like that? And then once you go all the way down, you arrive at some kind of assertion that is arbitrary, that you just choose it to be that way because it's faith, effectively. It's like the question of which faith it's going to be and what rules it's going to be governed by, and how you approach it, etc., etc., is a secondary question. But the primary question is, it's like at the bottom elephant is you have to assume something. Yeah, why is consent good? Exactly. It's like the question of not to question that it is not good, but to ask the question is like, why do you assume this? Like, what is your high and mighty, logical and God not needed explanation for why this is good in the first place? It's like, oh, is it good because you say so? And then why is the guy that says it shouldn't be so? Like, if democracy says that it's actually not good and you should be forced to do thing A and B and C, it's like, what are you to say no? Because, like, people want it, right? It's like, oh, but it's not logical. But, like, what the hell do you mean it's not logical? It's not a logical thing to, like, logic is a tool. Logic is a tool, and then if you want to use the tool, like, the tool is for something, and the goal and the value that you want to achieve with the tool is something that comes independently of the tool. It's like, the hammer is a great tool for like, you know, putting nails in things, and nails are a great tool for keeping things together, but then it's like the nail doesn't dictate you build a house, and the nail doesn't dictate how you, like, it dictates in some ways, it dictates how you build a house, but there's a lot of different formats, and it certainly doesn't tell you like which way to build a house is the best just because you have nails and a hammer, just because you have a certain tool. It's like you still have to follow certain rules of construction because of the tools you have, but like whether the house is good is not going to be, like the hammer isn't going to tell you that your idea for building a house is good. There's questions like this about Romans 12:1-2, Romans 12:3-4. Protestants just about obey authority because God said so, and don't think about authority's duty. Was the founding amoral? Wait, I'm gonna pull the thing up. Romans 12:1. It's just 1-4 effectively, because it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Am I stupid? Yeah, I think for this you would rather think of yourself with sober judgment in accordance with the faith God has distributed to each of you. For just as each of us has one body with many members, and these members do not all have the same function, and then I messed it up to read further. We form one body, and each member belongs to all the others. Read in Polish. Nah. I don't want to lose my train of thought completely. It's already damaged as is. Like I don't see how, because I would think that would be a criticism you would level against Catholics of all people, right? Because there's the Pope, and like the Pope is the guy, and everybody should refer to the Pope all the time. There's the criticism of Catholicism. No? Like, usually. That's the wrong reference. Oh. My bad. I mean, actually, no, not my bad. Your bad. Sorry. Because I think, because in order to have a functioning organization, you have to have a certain level of compliance. It's like the extreme of this would be the army. Like if you want to have an army, you have to have the soldiers obey orders to a pretty large degree, and not have complex moral dilemmas at the battlefield, because then they are just going to die while they are thinking, right? And then, like, if it's a lower impact, lower velocity operation, and in civilian life, there's a lot more room for questioning things and generally being more loose with the rules. You don't have to have like absolute adherence to authority everywhere all the time. But it's certainly beneficial to like defer in a lot of ways to authority and to the to like the people that are in charge. But then you are still advised to maintain sober judgment. Why am I saying that weird? Sober judgment, and then from that, like it's not unquestioning, it's not unwavering, and it's not like you still maintain that you first and foremost answer to God, and if the guy that's put in charge goes against what God says, and you truly believe that, and you've exhausted all the options to make him change his mind, and to like resolve the conflict, then I think you are obliged to do something about it, It's like what that something is like between you and God and the particular situation you find yourself in, but you are certainly not obliged to just, you know, shove it in your back pocket and continue doing things you believe are evil or wrong. Okay, this second reference, we're gonna copy that and we're gonna paste it in here. It's a nice portal, the Bible Gateway. You guys have good stuff in English. I don't think there's an equivalent in Polish. Unless they... Oh, no, Espanol, right. Not quite the same thing, not quite the same thing. Right, everyone is subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established. I mean, I would think this is not absolute, because it would, I think, obviously ask the question. It's like, is this what Jesus himself and the apostles were actually doing? And that's obviously not what they were doing. As in, it wasn't killing for the faith, and like, I don't know, committing crime in the name of Jesus, in a way that, I don't know, robbing stores or whatever, but it's like clearly going against what the current rules at the moment actually want and consider, and not just within, like, outside of the church, but also inside of the church, right? Paul, I don't know what the word is, but criticizes Peter, right, the head of the church. Christians don't treat it like it isn't absolute. Looking at the life of Jesus is the perfect counterexample. He's incredibly disrespectful of authorities. His entire, like, if you really look into the message, like what the conflict is about, it's like very, very big about the conflict with existing authorities is constant throughout the entire, like, New Testament. It's like, you guys were supposed to be doing things, you guys were supposed to be helping people, you guys had obligations to people, and then what you've done is just ruin all of it, effectively. And Jesus, like, to the point of, like, physically throwing, like, merchants out of the temple. That's not a very respecting authority thing to do. Some people, of course not me, but some people would even say that's the opposite of respecting authority, and that is a blatant and obvious act of disrespect. Purposefully so. And I think it's because, you know, when we read scripture, we want to read it in the full context of it, and then in this case, it's obvious that the full context means that this is not something that is absolutely to be adhered at all times, especially since you are called to, you know, abhor evil and not participate in evil. And then it's like, can somebody in authority be evil? Like, obviously. It's like, are you supposed to adhere to authority at all times in every case? It's like, obviously not. Yeah, healing on the Sabbath, exactly. Another, like, doing a bunch of things on the Sabbath. It's a gigantic campaign against the general attitude of we can actually trick God into doing whatever the hell we want if we just interpret the rules, like, if we bend the interpretation of the rules enough. Like, it doesn't actually matter what we do and what the intention and the spirit behind it is. We can just do whatever we want as long as we figure out a way to fit it into the letter of the law. It's like that. Jesus is against that all the time, very directly and very boldly, you could say. You could say it's like, oh, but it's different because we are in post-Jesus times, and so the authority now is already like has that in consideration. It's like I think you could. I think you could something that just occurred to me that you could literally see that in the letter because it's Romans, right? It's to Rome, so it's like effectively you could read it as Paul saying like, "Don't fed post." like don't you think it's like the an anti-fed posting disclaimer? It's like, I'm not saying, I'm not saying go pick up something and do something. I'm not saying any of that. Can't make a rule that dishonest people will follow. Yeah, because at the end of the day, the rules are way more like guidelines, because you want to codify what you mean in words, not to set them in stone forever as like perfect rules that never will change, because we'll never, I don't know, the language will never change or anything. But for the idea that by expressing those things and by setting them like expressing them in rules, etc., it gives you an ability to answer problems and then have a kind of basis and have stability, which stability is important if you want to do anything, because anything long term, like you want to make sure that the things you base if you do something, if you're trying to make something work and you have to base it on something, you want that base to be stable, because then you can over time add to the thing and build it into something bigger. And then if you instead have the fun and ever-changing world of whichever new government comes in just changes everything all the time into whatever the hell they think is correct, then you just end up with not being able to do anything long term, and if like you place it on, because it's necessarily built on sand. So you want to have a degree of rules that are like set in stone, and then you want to also argue about the rules and what they mean in practice, which is something I think is particularly nice about the American system, where you have the law, and then you have the interpretation of the law through court cases, and then they both and then they both make up the law. Whoops, wrong button. They both make up the law, like the interpretation becomes part of the law and case law, right? It's like how this has been interpreted is not just how it's written, but also we refer to how over time it's been thought of to maintain the spirit behind it. This is the problem of stage 1 thinking. What do you mean specifically? The problem of following authority, maybe? I think it's another aspect to look at it from, like another direction to look at it from, is a warning about how costly it is to overthrow existing like systems or like authorities, hierarchies, etc. It's like with the people who constantly say that, oh yes, there's gonna be a civil war, and dude, it's gonna be super based, and we're gonna win and replace everything, and it's gonna be awesome, and it's gonna be so good. It's like, buddy, do you understand that a war means people die, things get broken and destroyed, and you basically can't do much else aside from worrying about being alive at any particular moment? It's like, do you understand that, being civil, in the literal meaning of being civil, that's a way in which you can resolve conflicts and actually focus on the higher goals and meaning. Right? It's very hard to focus on the spiritual part of life and the values and the priorities and the faith when you are on the daily trying to not die, because there's nothing stable about anything. Like, you can't build really a community, very hard to build a family, etc., etc. I think that is also a valid reading of that. Sejuan thinking, this says to do this, that's what we do, and what happens after that, what about, okay, yeah, I get it. Changing your leadership all the time makes obeying authority thing a huge problem. I think so, yeah. Because, I mean, with a lot of these things, it's a question of what is authority, right? What do you mean by authority? Like, who is the authority and who decides who the authority is? It's like, is the current government of whichever country you're in the authority? It's like, what does it mean, right? It's like, if you have, hypothetically, in some country that certainly, like, it would never happen because politicians are so cool and good and everybody loves them, but imagine, like, you have the prime minister, which is like the leader of the executive in a country, and he's got like 12% approval rating. Is he the authority? It's like, supposedly the authority comes from the people in a system that is democratic, supposedly, so if the guy has a 12% approval rating, then that effectively means that he doesn't have the authority and he should resign. Basically. Then the question is, well, do you follow that authority, and how does that work? I think that is, I don't know, I think the big kind of catch up on that is because the passage says all authority comes from God. And, okay, hold on, let me look at it again. The authorities that exist have been established by God. Consequently, whoever rebels against the authorities is rebelling against what God has instituted, and those who do so bring judgment on themselves. There's no authority except that which God has established. I mean, I think, wouldn't you then make the argument that effectively sometimes you just change, you temporarily stop adhering to the current authority in order to establish a new one? It's like, this would be a verse against anarchy, effectively. It's like, you wanna have governing authorities in order to resolve issues, and if you ever need to, replace them and change them, that doesn't change the fact that you should be subject to authorities, and you in fact should have a hierarchy, and you should have rules, etc., etc., and law. Verses 3 and 4 said the authority's duty. Rules hold no terror for those who do right, but for those who do wrong. Do you want to be free from fear of the one in authority? Then do what is right and you will be commended, for the one in authority is good servant. Yeah, I think this is... If you read this in the entirety, it's effectively arguing for actually having and establishing order within society. It's effectively that, right? It's setting the goal. It's not describing everything ever, it's setting the example / goal / model for what things should look like, I think is what I describe this as. It's like you set up... You could prefix this, I think in modern day, and if we were to say this, we would probably prefix this in an ideal world. That's what we would probably prefix it with. In an ideal world, this is what it looks like, right? You submit to authority, the authority is there in order to enforce, reward the good and then punish the bad, which is the basic idea of growth, improvement. I don't know, there's a word for it in Polish that I don't know if it has an English equivalent. I'll look it up actually. Boom, Polish. No, it has, I guess nurture would be the closest. Upbringing, nurture, that kind of deal. The very basic idea, one of the very basic actions you do is you punish bad behavior and reward good behavior in order to help people act good. Right, so look at this as a model for how things should work. So we should have authorities that you can submit to because you know that they are enforcing the good and then dissuading the bad. But then that comes back to the question of like what is good and what is bad, and who decides. And it's interesting also because it very much establishes the state the authority in this question establishes it as important from the point of view of faith as well, because good, like the good and wrong in this case are in reference to our moral categories. So then you have this authority that is tasked with performing moral actions, which makes which would make the authority, not neutral. Which makes sense, because how do you, like, if you legislate things, if you make things illegal, you make them illegal because they are wrong to do, and then this is directly related to, like, what do you believe is wrong to do, and that is directly related to what is the source of morality, and that is faith-based at the end of the day. Verse 6 is the most definitive. This is also why you pay taxes. Well, I guess it was nice being a Christian. I guess it's over. I can't stand by this. I can't allow myself to pay taxes. Disgusting. For the authorities are God's servants who give their full time to governing. Yeah, it makes sense. Like in as a vision of, like, it's a vision for a Christian society, effectively. It's like we have the authorities because it's like with one of the letters defines bishop. Gotta go? Okay, bye-bye. I'm gonna be ending soon probably because it's past midnight. Like, maybe final thought. Like, it defines bishops as, like, husband of one wife, of, like, flawless moral character, or whatever it says. So it's like, I think it's kind of part of that. It's like, you guys should organize yourself such that this is true. Like, so that you have people who are tasked with enforcing order and maintaining, so that, like, everybody should remain vigilant and individually work towards the good, but you also should have, in the way you organize things, you should have those considerations. That's how I'd kind of read it. Okay, I think I'm gonna use the excuse to also just get out of here and go to bed, because it's midnight almost, and I should be conscious for work. I think that's generally something you probably should do. It's a good idea to be conscious for work, especially when you work with your brain. Like, it's a fairly important quality of the brain, the ability to be conscious. And it, like, meshes well with working. Thoughts? Alright, well, anyway. This is as good a place as any to drop off the face of the earth. Right. Excellent. I got some talking. We'll be back with more talking at some point, because I continuously am having these thoughts and I like speaking about it. I like forming it into words and actually justifying these. So it's gonna be fun. We'll come back to it. Maybe a drawing stream if I actually figure out what I want to draw, which is more difficult than you might imagine. Alright, anyway, thank you very much for sticking by for this little stream experience, for the rambling, for the exclamation points and question marks, and the very interesting interested dastings. And yeah, that's it. Let me tab into OBS and say goodbye, and bye bye, see you later, bye.